Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Dungeons and Dragons fan meetups event with care of Fan Expo Canada. I'm one of your ambassadors, Jeremy Johnston.
I'm your other ambassador, Angelo Corsino.
Yeah, and we're here to talk about a lot of new changes that have come to the races of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, calling it a bit of a revamp, as there's been a lot of dynamic changes to the way that people create characters over the last few books that have come out, including this one.
Since Tasha's, there's been a lot of changes.
As with all of our programs, we try to keep it family friendly, both here when we do it live as well as, on YouTube with the comments and such. But of course, if, you do have questions, if you're live here, we got our Q&A or just general chat. And of course, you can leave us comments on YouTube as well. We're also members of a local to the Greater Toronto Area group called Unite the Factions.
And we put on Dungeons and Dragons events, running Adventures League, epics, and content all across the city of Toronto and surrounding areas.
Yeah, we had a really fun event at Stormcrow Manor last month. And next month we'll be right across from Nathan Phillips Square at Breakout Con.
All right, so without further ado.
Yeah, let's dive in.
So where did they change these races from, Jeremy?
Okay, so this is a test for me to say it right and not make a mistake of calling it a Marvel movie. So it's Mordenkainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse. Okay. That's an achievement because I've been trying to get it right for 15 minutes.
All right, so they took a lot of the races from a lot of the other surrounding content. Like they effectively stopped printing Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes in favor of this book that has them all kind of encompassed in one. They've also added Harengon Fairy and Fairy from Wild Beyond the Witchlight. They've added Centaur. They've added Satyr. They've added a lot of other races as well, not just the
from other
ones
books,
from those two books.
And they've also shut down the ability to purchase those books on D&D Beyond. So if you didn't purchase them,
straight taken them out of print.
Yeah, they're gone. There's a lot of cool lore in those books, so
hopefully they replace it with something at some point.
Yeah, maybe some of these new folios and such that they've been coming out with on D&D Beyond. Although I feel like it's cluttering D&D Beyond. I think we need like a new subsection for those.
Well, I mean, it's still they're still currently in the source book section, but if there's enough of them, maybe they will.
Yeah, and if you're watching this video recently, there is actually a new one that is apparently time limited. It's Vecna's dossier. If you want to grab that from D&D Beyond, it's free.
And it's quite good. So the first race that we have on the table is one of the 2 nerfs in the 30 races that are included in this book. We're starting it off in alphabetical order, going with the Aarakocra. So before, Aarakocra used to have a flying speed of 50 feet and a walking speed of 20 feet. Now they just have a base speed of 30 feet and a walking speed equal to their flying speed.
I think this makes a lot of sense, though, especially if you want to be a monk, where you're going to double your speeds and such. So I think that that flows a little bit better.
The wording was kind of weird.
Exactly.
And a lot of things, like most of the things increased your speed blanket, so it didn't matter too much, but there were some things that specifically only increased your walking speed. So this is like a give and take change.
Exactly. And of course you still can't be wearing medium or heavy armor with this one.
No, you will not be able to fly if you are wearing medium or heavy armor. They also added the wind collar ability, which allows them to cast Gust of Wind without material components.
Yeah, which is something nice for these race-based spells that they don't
it's
have.
kind of thematic. They beat their wings really hard and they cast a gust of wind. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that I really like about what they've changed with the races too, for the new races that they're introducing and all these revamps, is your spell casting ability is something that you can select in terms of the attribute that it's part of.
You're not locked into a single one.
Yeah, so intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, because that's usually what spells are going to be based on, as most spellcasters use those traits as well.
All right. Next on the list, we have Aasimar. Aasimar got some pretty big changes.
It did. So there's no more sub-races of Aasimar.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
They lump them all into just base Aasimar.
Yep.
Which is a good time to point out that in this book, all of the races, they used to have like, very specific kind of Aasimar used to get +2 charisma, and then whatever your sub race was gave you an extra +1 in either strength, constitution, or wisdom. Now, all the races can either have 3 different scores raised by 1, or increase score by 2 and a different score by 1.
Yeah.
Which
That's
is a lot
a
more
welcome
versatile. You can
change.
it lets you customize characters more. You're no longer only seeing like Aasimar bards and sorcerers.
Yeah, I think we'll see people play a lot of different races just because they're not always, trying to pair a race with a specific combination.
Back to Aasimar. They got a cool new celestial feature. It's like a little kind of flavor bit that you can kind of choose from to kind of flavor your character. Just different things like rainbows gleaming on your skin, a ghostly halo crowning your head, an unusual hue or tinting to your shadow, starkly colored hair, metallic, luminous, or dark eyes, or a dusting of metallic white or charcoal freckles, as just like an extra bit of allure to your celestial heritage. The rest of the package kind of stayed similar, but there were 2 very big changes. They still have their resistance to necrotic and radiant. They still have their dark vision. Healing hands changed. Before, you used to heal an amount equal to your level.
That's right.
Now you roll a number of d4s equal to your proficiency bonus. Now this increases your upper range, but also obviously you lose some reliability. At level 1, it's way better than getting 1.
Sure. Yep.
You're rolling
Definitely.
2d4s.
Yep.
Right. Which is when healing is more important at lower level anyway, right?
Totally. But you're not going to be at level 20 and just, giving somebody 20.
At level 20, the difference between 20 and what would be the low end? The low end would be 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the difference between 20 and 6 at level 20 doesn't matter. The other big thing that changed is that you no longer have your sub race. You choose your sub race at level 3 technically, but instead it's a celestial revelation. Before, it used to take a full action to activate, to grow out your wings or become a light consuming entity. But now
it's a bonus action.
It is a bonus action activation. So now you still have your action free to do whatever you want. The trade-off is that the damage is no longer your level. It is now tied to just your proficiency bonus. So it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 6.
But proficiency bonus seems to be a theme in a lot of the abilities
that
they've and races.
Classes and races, exactly. There's a lot of good bits that they've added with that. And it makes things more versatile than just like once a day.
Yeah, I agree.
The other things are all still the same. You still get necrotic shroud, radiant consumption, or radiant soul. Those have not changed.
Yep. But gone are the, breakdown by sub races. Now it's just Aasimar. Whereas for some that we'll see later, what used to be sub races are now races. So it's interesting where they've made choices like that.
Next on the list, we have bugbears.
Yeah. So not a lot of changes here for bugbears.
One big one.
Yeah.
Well, surprise attack. Surprise attack used to be very hard to make work. Now it's now it's like assassinate. You get them on their first round and it does extra damage. As where assassinate you would have advantage. This you do an extra 2d6 per hit if you beat something in initiative.
Yeah. It's going to be tricky just like assassinate for a rogue.
Well, the assassinate you need surprise, which is what surprise attack used to need as well. And surprise is one of the hardest things to get in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, except part of it also works with people that haven't taken a turn in combat yet.
Yeah, that's the advantage part of assassin. But yeah,
Yeah.
so if you have a high initiative as your bugbear, you're going to be getting a lot of extra damage round 1 because it just says attack roll. No
Yep.
longer, it's not a weapon attack, so you can go run up and cast Steel Wind Strike and get 2d6 on every hit.
Yep. And I guess it's just the same damage type since the damage is not listed here.
Exactly.
Like a lot of other things.
They also can now squeeze in through smaller spaces, which is somewhat contrary to their powerful build.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting. It lets them have a little bit more versatility. It still does. You still can't move through creatures like you can as a halfling, but you can squeeze through small spaces without penalty, which is situationally nice.
Yeah. But one other thing that bugbears that like still have that a lot of people like about it is that when you make melee attacks, you have a 5 foot greater reach. So if you're not familiar
Only
with
on your turn.
bugbear,
It doesn't apply to reactions.
yeah, it's still pretty good.
All right, centaurs.
Yeah, so this comes from the Magic the Gathering supplements that they've created.
It would now amalgamate it into monsters of the multiverse.
Yeah, which is awesome. So the other important thing that they're really putting together with all these race stat blocks are the creature types. And by default, you're assumed to be humanoid unless they say something different. And in this case, the centaur are Fae.
Which means that it will not be able to be affected by spells like Charm Person and Hold Person, things that require you to target humanoids.
Yeah. So they have a higher walking speed. So I figure it's worth just talking a little bit more about centaurs, as people might not have the Magic the Gathering books. It says here, charge. If you move at least 30 feet straight toward a target and hit it with a melee weapon attack on the same turn, you can immediately follow it with a bonus action, making another attack against the same target with your hooves.
Which is fun because extra attacks are always good.
Yeah, totally. They count as a size larger. That's their feature called equine build, which makes sense because um, there's about as big of a horse, and I guess
But they are still a medium-sized creature because they did not want to try to make things extra complicated for DMs.
Yeah. So unfortunately, you won't be using your friend the centaur as a mount.
Unless you're a halfling.
Okay. Yeah. No,
Or
that's a good
other
point.
small-sized creature. But yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Very good point. Like a lot of other creatures, they can make some physical unarmed strikes. In this case, obviously, it's their hooves that allow this to happen. And like a lot of, I think pretty much all of them that we've seen, they're always using the strength modifier. And the damage in this case is 1d6 bludgeoning.
Yep. And they have some nice possible proficiency choices that they can choose from that are always nice to have. It's always good to have skills. Skills make you feel useful. We have a question. They did not make it an option to be large or small in this book. Centaurs.
That's correct. Your size is medium.
Your size is flat medium. Whereas Aasimar, they did change where you could be medium or small.
Yeah.
We did glaze over that.
Mm-hmm. Next is Changeling. So this race comes from the Eberron supplement.
Yep. And now they are considered Fae.
Yeah. And you do get to choose your size with this one as well, medium or small.
And they also have the Shape Changer trait,
which is amazing.
Shape Changer is very good, but this Shape Changer trait makes you susceptible to Moonbeam. Very, very niche interaction.
Indeed. And you can change your size between medium and small.
Yes.
And you can look like other races, but you can't duplicate their stats.
Yeah, you just look like them. You still have your own base stat block.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you're just changing your physical shape, so you better pack some extra clothes.
You have different sets of clothes in your bags if you know you're going to be doing this sort of changing.
Exactly. And you stay in this new form unless you use an action to change or when you die.
Next down the line, we have Deep Gnomes. I could never pronounce the other way to say it.
Oh, same. But here's an example of a sub-race that's been made a standalone race.
Exactly. So now they are considered humanoid. They are small. They, unlike other small races like halflings, they have a walking speed of 30 feet, which is nice.
Yeah.
And like most of the other races in this book that are Underdark oriented, they are no longer susceptible to sunlight. They've mostly got rid of sunlight sensitivity on
Yeah, that's nice.
races. There's
Yeah, I'd
still some
like to see
creatures
the
that have it.
same done for the drow.
They did. They didn't. All right, so they have the rest of the package is still very similar, but they are no longer have sunlight sensitivity.
That's right. Here's another sub race that has a standalone race, the Duragar.
And another one that no longer has sunlight sensitivity.
Yes, indeed.
They did gain one extra trait though, which is kind of nice for them. They have advantage on saving throws that end charmed or stunned conditions, which is thematically appropriate because in the Underdark you often run into mind flayers, which are going to try to stun you.
The cool thing about playing a Duragar versus using it as a monster is there's no restriction on how you can use your Duragar magic. Because as a monster, after they're enlarged, they can't cast invisibility, I believe it is.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they still have the dwarven resilience that they would have.
It's the opposite, actually. If you cast invisibility, you can't enlarge. Sorry.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, they're both concentration anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they have. They still have, because they've made it a new race, as opposed to just a offshoot of dwarf with some small changes. They've re-added the dwarven resilience so that there's no confusion.
Yeah.
Another race that got a massive changes.
Yeah.
Are the Eladrin. They're still not Fey. They're still humanoid.
Yeah, very surprising.
Yeah,
but a little disappointing.
Almost a little bit. They do get a couple of interesting new things. Like Fey Step used to be a once-a-day ability that allowed you effectively to cast Misty Step. That's not Misty Step, so it can't be countered.
Right.
But now, instead of being able to do it once a day, you can do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, so right away at level 1, you can do it twice a day as opposed to before at any level where you can only do it once a day.
Yeah. And it can't be countered. Wow.
Well, it always was like that, right? It's like,
no, still.
It's not a spell.
Yeah, I know.
I don't believe any of the like seasonal jumps that you could do have changed.
Nope.
From what I recall, but a huge change came to trance. Previously, trance was just, it takes you sleep for 4 hours instead of needing the 8-hour long rest of other creatures to sleep. And but now, when you finish this trance, you can change your season. Before, they used to have, spring Eladrin, winter Eladrin, that sort of thing. Now you can change your season when you finish your trance, and you can now gain 2 proficiencies that you don't have, each one with a weapon or tool of your choice from the player's handbook. And you mystically acquire these proficiencies from drawing from shared elven memory, and you retain them until you finish your next long rest.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
It's like, you're sitting outside of a castle that you're going to try to infiltrate. You're like, what we really need in this party? Let's sleep on this, and you come back with thieves' tools the next day, and you can pick your way into the back door.
Yeah, and when you're making your getaway, assuming you had the chance for a long rest, oh look, we're gonna steal this ship. I know how to use it.
Yep. Let's hold on, guys. We're taking a ship tomorrow. Navigator's tools. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I like it.
It's a very fun little bit they added. This doesn't change trance for any of the player's handbook elves or Sword Coast elves or any of the other source books. It's only for the ones in this one, and we'll talk about that again when we get to the other ones.
Yeah, so next is Fairy, and Big surprise. They are Fae.
Yes, they did not add any changes to fairy from Wild Beyond the Witchlight. They just also included it in this book.
Yeah. And again, flying speed equal to your walking speed, like the Aarakocra.
Seems to be like the new trend for flying races.
Yep, and obviously, Fae being light and such, no medium or heavy armor for flight.
Correct. They still get all their neat little spells. They start with Druidcraft, and they can get Fairy Fire and a large reduce.
Yep.
Once a
The
day.
other thing I like too with a lot of these newer written races too is that you can cast those spells using any spell slots you have of the appropriate level if you've taken a
Yes.
spell casting class.
Which can be nice because you might get access to spells you wouldn't otherwise be able to cast more than once.
Totally. And if you're a wizard, it's another spell you don't have to prepare.
Yeah, always handy.
Mm-hmm. Furbolg. So Furbolgs are humanoid. Don't seem to.
Hidden Step is now is still a bonus action,
Yeah.
and it is now proficiency bonus uses per long rest, like a lot of other abilities, as opposed to once a day.
Mm-hmm.
They're still one size larger for carrying capacity, and they still have Speech of Beast and Leaf. Not too much else to add. The only real change that they made was that the Hidden Step now has more uses.
Yeah. Okay, so again, we have the Genasi returning, and for these ones, they kind of did keep the sub races.
They did, and they also all got facelifts, effectively,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what they can do.
Yeah, so we'll start with Air Genasi.
They can now be medium or small.
Yeah.
Their creature type is humanoid, even though they're half elemental.
Yeah. Well,
Air Genasi got dark vision, but previously only Fire Genasi had it.
yeah, that's a nice upgrade.
And then the other thing that they got was they have lightning resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just being able to cast Levitate, they can also cast Featherfall, which is important when you have the ability to go up in the air.
Totally.
And Shocking Grasp, which is a nice little kind of just touch of being, air based.
Yeah, it's worth noting that all the Genasi have dark vision.
Yes, whereas before only Fire Genasi did.
Yeah.
So those are the changes to air. Next is Earth. Similar to Air Genasi, they got the dark vision.
Yep.
They still have Earth Glide. That hasn't changed. They're merged with Stone. They also gained the ability to cast Blade Ward, as well as their Pass Without a Trace.
Yeah, it's thematic, I'd say.
Yes. And Pass Without a Trace now kicks in at 5th level, as opposed to getting it at level 1.
Yep. Fire Genasi is next.
Like the others, they also gained the ability to be either medium or small.
Yep. And then in terms of their spells, beyond just Produce Flame as a cantrip, they have Burning Hands and Flame Blade.
Flame Blade's a fun one that only druids usually have. Now you can get that on a fighter. Could be interesting. I do like that change quite a bit.
Yeah, totally. Water Genasi is the last of the Genasi. Again, as we mentioned, they gain dark vision. And
medium or small choice.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Good point. And then for spells, apart from Acid Splash as a cantrip and Create and Destroy Water, they have Water Walk at 5th level.
Yes, the Water Walk is a very good. Okay, somebody dispelled our water breathing. We need to get up in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
Or just it's time to do the whole shoot up and cast Water Walk. Or if you need to just not sink in the first place.
Yeah. Next up is a race that I think a lot of people might consider for playing Spelljammer when it comes out in August.
This is one of my favorite races in general.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with the one real change they got.
So they kept the sub races of Githyanki and Githzerai.
That's because they're actually two different races.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't sub races. They were two different races that are both considered Gith.
Gotcha.
They are denizens of the astral plane. If as long as they are living in the astral plane, they never age. They only age when they come to other planes, like the Prime. They still have the ability to cast a Jump or Misty Step, but they did lose the ability to cast Shield.
Mm-hmm. That's too bad.
It was given to Githzerai. We'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
The one thing that they did get, which is also incredibly thematic, is that they gain resistance to psychic damage. Why is that thematic? Because the Gith are perpetually at war with mind flayers.
Yeah.
They hunt each other in the astral plane.
Exactly.
Giant nautiloids being attacked by Yankee riding ancient dragons. It's kind of cool.
Totally.
Moving to the Githzerai.
Yep.
They gained that aforementioned shield spell, as well as detect thoughts, as part of their spellcasting package. The rest of the stuff was already there for the most part, except once again, they now have the psychic resilience and have resistance to psychic damage.
So the next race is Goblin. So they're humanoid, but it's interesting that they also mention you're considered goblinoid, even though that's really not a creature type.
It's not a creature type, but there are effects on magic weapons, possibly, that can sense goblinoids.
Mm-hmm. True. So your size is still small.
You still have your walking speed. You still have your 60-foot dark vision.
Yeah. Fury of the Small, though. Yeah.
Fury of the Small was always there, but now you have proficiency bonus uses instead of 1.
Right. Yeah, so small change there.
And then now they have Fey ancestry, despite being humanoid, and they have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the charmed condition, which is very relevant.
Mm-hmm. And they can still disengage or hide as a bonus action.
Yep, that is unchanged.
Yeah, very nice.
Next, we have Goliaths.
Yeah, still humanoid, and they're medium.
Yep, despite being hulking masses, they're still humanoid, and they're still medium-sized creatures. But again, they're not gonna. If they didn't make Centaur large, they're not gonna make any of them large. It's too complicated on the DM.
Still no dark vision.
The one change that they got was that their stone endurance, which was once a day, is now based on proficiency bonus, like almost all of these other abilities. A lot of these abilities are relevant to have multiple uses of.
Right.
It just adds to what you can do. Having more things is fun.
And it scales well.
Exactly.
Yeah, as you level.
You still have your athletics proficiency and doubled, one size larger carrying capacity.
Yep. And then from Wild Beyond the Witchlight, we get the Heron Gun.
And once again, nothing is different from that book, but because it's new, they have a walking speed of 30 feet. They can be medium or small. They're humanoids.
Yep. They can add proficiency bonus to initiative and are proficient with perception.
Incredibly relevant because adding your proficiency bonus to initiative means that it is applicable for reliable talent.
Wow.
Which means you cannot roll an initiative lower than 10 plus your modifier as a Haragon if you are a 11th level rogue.
Amazing. They also have an ability called Lucky Footwork. When they fail a dex save, they can use a reaction to roll a d4 and add it to the save. You can't use your reaction if you're prone or if your speed is 0.
Yes.
But still, this is as many times as you have a reaction, which is pretty nice. Not based on your proficiency bonus for this one.
Yeah. So it's just another way to use your reaction if you feel like you need it.
Totally.
And then Rabbit Cop's kind of cool. There's some funny things you can do with it when you're being able to jump 5 times your proficiency bonus without provoking opportunity attacks.
Totally.
It's always good when you don't provoke opportunity attacks.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really happy about the changes to the way that you calculate attributes and such, because of
Absolutely.
especially with this next race, the Hobgoblin. Because I'm always,
Hobgoblin, it's
yeah,
always been one of my favorites, and I've always wanted to make a battle mage. I could just never
yeah,
make it work properly in Adventures League
exactly.
because
Same.
of the it's
Yeah,
frustrating. But now you can do it.
totally. Exactly.
They've also got some interesting buffs.
Um, so yeah, they also have the Fey ancestry like the Goblin, with advantage on saving throws to avoid or end charmed condition on yourself.
Yes, and they got before they used to be able to have this this ability called Save Face, which has been replaced with Fortune from the Many. So before
Mm-hmm.
Save Face lets you re-roll like a failed check, basically. But this kind of lets you more of a teamwork thing. So as long as you have allies within 30 feet of you, you can add up to 3 uh, to a roll that you have failed a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. If you have 3 allies within 30 feet of you when you make the save, attack roll, or ability check. It's just a fun, nice little bonus for having friends nearby.
Mm-hmm. What they
That
lose.
doesn't cost an action, a reaction, a bonus action. You just get it.
Mhm.
Proficiency bonus per day.
Yeah, what they do lose though is their proficiency with light armor.
Yes, and medium
and,
armor, I believe.
and their weapon proficiencies.
Yes, they did lose those, but what they got was bonus action help.
Yeah.
And that bonus action help has a twist. Not only do they get what the benefits of the help action, they also can choose one of these 3 things each time they take the help action. They can
Yeah.
give a creature 1d6 temporary hit points. They can increase walking speed of you and the creature that you are helping by 10 feet, which is not irrelevant. Extra movement speed is always good.
Yep.
And I like the ability just because the name of the ability is Spite. And until the start of your next turn, the first time a creature you help hits a target with an attack roll, that target has disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes within the next minute. So it's kind of just like a fun way. You give advantage with the help action, and then you give something disadvantage.
And that's like a rewrite of the entire race.
Yeah, like Hobgoblin was completely changed.
Yeah.
And I like it. I liked it before, but I just could never make it work.
Yep.
This is a good change.
Totally. So you're gonna make a bard?
No, actually, I'm still gonna. I think I want to do. I think I want to do a Hobgoblin Blade Singer at some point. Actually,
Cool. Yeah,
so
I'm
you get
definitely
that.
thinking
So
of
first
her.
turn Blade Song, and then from then on, you're just using your bonus action to help.
Yep. Very
I
cool.
think that'd be kind of fun. Anyway,
Yeah. So Kenku is next. You can choose your size with this one. Still humanoid, medium or small.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some subtle changes here. It says here when you copy writing or craft work produced by yourself or someone else, you have advantage on ability checks you make to produce an exact duplicate, which is kind of interesting.
It can be useful, and it's a very situationally useful ability. But if it ever comes up, I mean, you've got a thing.
Yeah, totally. And mimicry is still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can mimic the sounds you've heard, including voices, but it doesn't say you can't speak, right?
Yeah. So now they've gotten rid of the Kenku inability to speak without mimicry.
Yeah, so they still have mimicry, but yeah, they're not reliant on it for communication.
Now it's more of like a kind of like actor feat that has a skill check contest.
Yeah.
Because they can successfully tell that you are imitating with an insight check against a DC, which is your proficiency bonus plus your charisma modifier.
Yeah, but you don't get to choose because
Yes,
it's essentially a like deception.
yeah, it's like a this DC based deception check, basically.
Yeah.
Speaking of races that were completely changed, our next one is kobolds.
Yes. Yeah. So humanoid. No, they're not dragons.
They never were. They were still
I
humanoids
know, I
before. They're
know.
little.
I'm
They're
just
baby
saying.
dragons, though. Let's
I'm
be
just
real here.
saying.
Yeah, no.
They are still small. You don't get a choice on that one.
Nope. They still have their dark vision. They no longer have
Yep.
sunlight sensitivity.
Which is nice.
Yay, right? They don't have pack tactics anymore, which a lot of people were complaining about because they
Yeah,
liked
I
to
loved
cheese
it.
it.
Yeah.
But now, for people who weren't playing Adventures League and didn't have access to that fancy eye patch from an NPC that you should never really be able to fight anyway, you definitely can no longer need it because they don't have sunlight sensitivity.
That's right.
They changed the name of Grovel Cry Bag. So they've completely reflavored it. Before, you got on your knees and you made a big scene, and it kind of did the same thing as the newly named ability does, except they've made it with more bravado, and it is a bonus action instead of an action, and you can do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and it is called Draconic Cry.
Mm-hmm.
They also gained a free cantrip. So you want to start with Booming Blade, cool. You want to start with Firebolt, cool. You want to start with True Strike. I don't know why, but you can.
Yeah, basically any cantrip from the sorcerer spell list, but you get to choose your spell casting ability.
Yep. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma, which is always
Pretty
nice.
neat. Yep.
And then they have advantage on saving throws to end fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to choose one of what's it called? The 3 legacies. Either the advantage on fear saves, the cantrip, or extra proficiency.
Right.
But the biggest change is no sunlight sensitivity, no pack tactics, and Draconic Cry is a bonus action.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, it's a better pack tactics because it also gives allies within 10 feet advantage.
Yeah. Lizard Folk is next. There's some subtle changes here as well.
Mm-hmm.
You won't be making armor anymore, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, they did take away the crafter ability that they had to just make stuff on the fly, kind of.
Yeah. So humanoid, medium, 30 feet of walking and swimming.
It's always nice to have the extra ability to swim. It means that you don't need to worry about things like swinging a greatsword underwater.
Totally. And you can hold your breath for up to 15 minutes at a time, which is pretty good, but drowning rules are pretty nice to players, I would say.
Holding your breath rules are, drowning or less so.
Okay, sorry. Holding your breath prior to drowning.
Yeah, holding your breath, it's 30 seconds, and then con mod in minutes. So if you had +5 con, you could do it for 5.5 minutes anyway. Lizard Folk can do it for 15. It's a bonus. It's like 3 times what you get on max. Yeah. Drowning, though, is still con mod in rounds if you are drowning.
Yeah.
Hungry Jaws is now a what's it called? Proficiency bonus per day ability as opposed to once, which is nice. And they still have their natural armor and 2 skills.
Yeah, and of course you can only use 1 calculation to determine your AC. This doesn't stack with anything else.
Nope.
Another magic race that's come over here, as in Magic the Gathering, is Minotaur.
Yes. Humanoid.
Yep. Medium.
Still medium, not large, like the monster stat block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have this nice set of horns, though.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hit with them, like a lot of these unarmed strikes for the racial abilities, it's just 1d6 and your strength modifier.
Mm-hmm. They basically get the charger feat for free.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, pretty nice.
They don't get the +5 damage, but let's be real, the +5 damage wasn't really a big thing anyway.
Yeah. And you can make that melee attack with your horns, which...
thematically cool. You take a running start and you hammer them with your head.
Totally. Which is hammering horns immediately after you hit that creature with a melee attack. But it says as part of the attack action on your turn. You can use your bonus action to attempt to push that target with your horns.
And
So,
correct me if I'm wrong, but Labyrinth Recall is slightly different. Before you were never able to get lost in a maze.
that's correct.
So somebody casts the maze spell on you, you just walk out of it.
Yeah. Not,
But you
not here
always
anymore.
know which direction is north, and you have advantage on any wisdom survival check to make or not to navigate or track.
Yeah. So
Slight
slightly.
change.
Yeah.
Honestly, more versatile because the other one was incredibly situational.
Hmm. Yeah, totally.
Advantage on survival to navigate or track is useful.
Yeah. Orc is next. A lot of good changes here.
Great changes.
Yeah, especially with just the way the attribute bonuses are. There's no negatives anymore.
Yeah, they don't have the negative intelligence modifier anymore, which
Yeah.
made for some fun things, but let's be real. I mean, no one likes negatives.
No,
Kobolds don't have the
totally.
negative to strength anymore. We should mention that now that we
Oh, yeah,
remembered the other
good
one.
point. Good point.
Powerful build.
Yeah.
Relentless
Killing.
endurance.
Yep.
They now have this. They didn't
Yeah.
before.
Yeah,
Half
even
orcs
though the
that
half
don't.
orcs did. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
kind of
that's
funny.
always but they still have their bonus action dash that they can do a number of times equal to the proficiency bonus.
Yep.
The adrenaline rush, and then it gives you an extra bonus where you gain temporary hit points also equal to proficiency bonus.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
You know, it's marginal later, but more HP is never bad.
No, never.
They still have their dark vision,
Yeah.
but yes, they have relentless endurance. This is
Yeah,
just
that's amazing.
I can't believe it. No one could believe they didn't have that before, but
Yeah. No, nice changes. Very good. Next up is another import from Magic the Gathering, the Satyr.
another Fae.
Yeah. Medium-sized, walking speed 35, and just like the Minotaur, they can also ram using their horns.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly, they do the same damage.
But now they only have advantage on saving throws against spells, not all spells and magical effects.
Jeez. Did they do this more than once?
They might have, and you were not salty about the other one at all.
Nope. They can also do some fancy jumping. Not as good, I'd say, as the Harengon, though.
No, they can. Theirs is just when they're making a standing jump, they can go a little further.
Yeah.
The cost movement is normal, as opposed to the Harengon, which can just kind of go flying.
Totally. Yeah. They also have proficiency with performance or persuasion,
Which is good. Like they're supposed to be like a jovial race.
Yeah, and a music instrument of choice. Makes sense.
Very but again, no more magical effects. So now you can get now any creature ability that is just a magical effect and not a spell, no more advantage.
Yeah, which is how
relevant, very relevant.
Of monsters, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of abilities are not spells. All right, so next is Sea Elf. So not a subrace. They're humanoid.
Not a subrace.
But also considered elf.
Mm-hmm.
No surprise, they have a swimming speed equal to their walking speed.
And the reason why they added that for any prerequisite or effect is for things like elven accuracy.
Yeah. They can breathe air and water and have resistance to cold damage because they live underwater.
Which makes a lot of sense. They still have the ability to talk to any beast. Simple ideas that has a swim speed. I've always thought that was a little cool ability.
And same changes to trance as we saw with the Shadar-kai and the Eladrin. Yeah.
Shadar-kai's next, but yeah. So same thing. You can change out weapon and tool proficiencies at the end of your trance.
Yeah. And yeah, this goes right into Shadar-kai. From the Shadowfell. May or may not be associated with the Raven Queen.
Have an ability called Blessing of the Raven Queen, which before used to be once a day, but now proficiency bonus uses. Versatility.
Yep. And it's still that magical teleport.
Yep. And this one actually gives you resistance to all damage until the start of your next turn. This one's even better.
Yep. And during that time, you appear ghostly and translucent.
Yeah,
Cool
that was
effect.
there before. I've always thought that was a nice little flavor touch because of the Raven Queen.
Totally, totally.
They have advantage on to end charm condition and avoid it, like the
Yep.
rest of the elves. They still have
Resistance to
resistance to
necrotic.
necrotic damage,
Yep.
and they still have the same trance as the Sea Elves and the Eladrin,
Correct.
which doesn't extend to the player's handbook elves.
Yeah.
So wood elves and high elves, sorry.
Yeah, we'll probably see an update to that when
We might
do,
not.
I think when they
Depends.
do their revamp of whatever they're doing with the player's handbook, we're going to see something happen there as well to bring it in line, I would think.
Yeah, like that is forecasted. That's not.
Yeah, we don't know, but that's our guess. At least
Exactly. That's not something that's out there. That's just we figure that's coming with a lot of the changes they've been making.
yeah. Next race is another import from Eberron, the Shifter.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like Asimar, they now have the ability to gain like a specific ancestor, whereas before it was just kind of like a flavor thing, whether that they could choose.
Yep.
They let's go. They have their extra proficiencies, medium creatures, humanoids.
Yep.
Their bonus action shift. The temporary hit points is lower, but they can do it in a time equal to their proficiency bonus.
Yep.
Before it was once a day. So before it used to be your a d6 plus your level. Now it's 2 times your proficiency bonus and temp HP.
Mm-hmm. And so you choose one of the options for shifting when you select the race, rather than there being sub races.
Yes. So now they're still the same 4: Beast Hide, Longtooth, Swift Stride, and Wild Hunt.
Yep.
And their abilities are still the same.
Yep. The next race is a lot of people's favorite race, especially from Bolos, Tabaxi.
So the only change for Tabaxi is that their climbing speed is now 30 feet as well, as opposed to just being 20 feet.
Yep.
They made it universal. The rest are effectively the same.
Yep. Still love that burst of speed.
Yeah, feeling agility is great. It's a fun little thing you can do. And was Cat Claws a D4 or D6 before? Because a D6 now. I don't remember if it was a D6 or D4.
Well, I have the book in front of me. Just give me one sec here.
Oh, pulling out the old book. I think it was a D4.
Let's see. Looking at Tabaxi, it was a D4 plus your strength modifier.
Yep, so they've increased it to a D6.
It looks like they're giving everybody a D6 for their unarmed strikes.
A nice slight little buff that may or may not be relevant, but
yep, and it's slashing instead of bludgeoning. So for some of these, the damage type has been different. Like the horns have been piercing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this next one was an extra life race that they're pulling in, the Tortle. So it was
it was just in it was in its own little thing called the Tortle package that was kind of released with Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah. So they're humanoid. You can choose to be medium or small. You have a walking speed of 30. You have claws, and
these claws are now 1d6 as opposed to 1d4.
And they are slashing. So if you want to call yourself Slash, go for it.
Yep, you can be Slash from Turtles in Time. Always fun.
Yeah. I don't think, or Shredder's Revenge.
True.
That came out today. Oh yeah, play it.
I knew that was coming out. I didn't know it was today.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass too.
They still have their shell. That is an armor class of 17, regardless of whatever your dexterity modifier is.
Flat.
You still can wear armor if you choose, but then that will be your armor calculation instead of your shell.
That's correct. You can hold your breath for an hour.
Yep, that hasn't changed. The only change that I believe they got is they can be medium or small now, as opposed to just medium, and that their unarmed strike is a D6 instead of a D4. Everything else is effectively the same.
Yep. They can also withdraw into their shell as an action. They get +4 to AC when they do so, have advantage on strength and con saves. But when you're in your shell, you're prone, you have a speed of 0, which cannot be increased. You have disadvantage on dex saves, which makes sense because you're not moving anywhere. And you can't take reactions.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those panic button things where...
Yeah. And the only action you can take is a bonus action to emerge from your shell.
It's a nice little like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Very situational.
Yeah. Because it takes away a reaction, it's very awkward.
Mm-hmm. So the next one is from Volos. It's the Triton race.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And, some pretty good changes here.
Well, they gave them dark vision.
Yeah, wow.
The original printing didn't. I think they fixed it at some point, but
Mm-hmm.
they definitely reprinted it to have dark vision.
Yeah, that's important if you're going to live underwater.
Yeah, you would think that, deep creatures that live deep underwater would, be able to see in the dark.
Yep. And they also have resistant to cold damage.
That's a nice little touch.
Yep.
And they have the spell casting. They can do Fog Cloud, Gust of Wind, and Water Walk at levels 1, 3, and 5. Mm-hmm. And now they can choose the ability Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma as their spellcasting modifier for those if a check is required, which is really only relevant to Gust of Wind, but...
Okay. This is the one I want to cry about.
We finally made it to the end.
Yeah. So the last of the list of races in the book is also the last one from Volos, the Yuan-ti. So you can choose your size, which is different. Medium or small. Much like the other magic resistance change, you only have advantage on saving throws against spells.
Mm-hmm. No more and magical effects.
Yeah, you have poison resilience instead of immunity.
Yep.
That
I know that's eating at you.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Just it felt really thematic, But
I like these changes for a very specific reason. It stopped mattering when they put Bladesinger and Tasha's, but you used to see a lot of really silly things in Adventures League regarding Yuan-ti because of the nature of Adventures League and how Tomb of Annihilation works. You were seeing elves who were Bladesingers being resurrected into humans so they could undergo a transformation to be Yuan-ti Bladesingers.
Amazing.
It was
it wasn't me though.
You never actually did that. No, you just wanted all your characters to be Yuan-ti.
I just wanted all my characters to be human and take from the powers of the Yuan-ti.
Yeah, same thing.
Just a different point of view.
But yeah, they still have their spell casting. Now that it's not just tied to charisma, it can be intelligence or wisdom as well.
Yeah, very nice.
They still get poison spray. They still get animal friendship with snakes, and they still get suggestion.
Yeah. So, like as with any campaign, talk with your dungeon master and your other players. Whether you're bringing a new character to an existing campaign or you're having a new campaign, maybe have a session 0 prior to starting the game. You all get together and discuss certain things that you'd like to see or do, and pick races that will fit the setting. If it's homebrew, obviously if it's Adventurers League, you can choose any of these. In fact, it's encouraged. And if you
the Adventure League made a wholesale change and said use the new stuff. There's a grace period, talk to your DM, but the plan is to use the new stuff.
Yeah. And that also goes with choosing your language, because you will be able to speak common and one language of choice.
Yep. And that's across the board.
Usually those are going to come from the player's handbook, but obviously, speak with your DM and see if there's some other choices that could work, like Netherese or Loras. I mean,
you're just picking a language at random there.
Yeah, just randomly. Yeah, randomly,
Any questions for the last couple of minutes that we have left from our viewership?
let's see here. Yeah, I don't see anything else. But we have Fan Expo coming up
We do.
in a couple months. A lot of exciting guests. If you don't have tickets, I recommend getting tickets. Start planning out, what you'd like to do, who'd you like to see, and
There's a huge lineup of interesting people to see at Fan Expo this year.
yeah, totally. Yeah, like a lot of Star Trek, Star Wars, anime, and
Yep. It's definitely a very major con we like to run D&D at.
totally, and all four hobbits from Lord of the Rings.
Unfortunately, Julie, plane tickets are not included in the Fan Expo cost.
No.
That would have to come externally.
Yeah, but it's looking like it's going to be a great event. Hopefully, there'll be some D&D there as well.
We're going to do it if they let us. They just need to let us. They just need to tell us what we have.
Totally. All right. Well, our next event is next month with Unite the Factions at Breakout all weekend. So
Breakout in Toronto.
Yeah. So breakoutcon.com if you want to check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then, of course, that's going to be followed up by big events like the CNE and, of course, the biggest con of the year, Fan Expo. Yeah.
It's like our major in Toronto.
Yeah, con season is starting,
Yep, sure is.
Yeah, so
then after that,
forward to seeing anybody that shows up there.
Yep, for sure. Definitely looking forward to in September. They always like to do that little fun one, but that's in the future.
All right. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for those that joined us live and for those that are watching us here on YouTube. And thanks, Angelo, for helping run this.
Yep, it was fun. Get to talk about the races and the changes. I like effectively all of them. There isn't one that I was upset with.
I'm not too upset with Wanty. It's just whenever they take things away, I'm just
make a deception check for me, real quick. I'm kidding.
All right.
All right, guys. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us.